So good afternoon, everyone. Apart from what you see on the screen, I'm also completing a PhD in moral philosophy. So I run the danger of sounding like a sage. I apologize, but I will try and speak quickly through this and make sure it's 10 minutes. So in prepping for this session, Ian mentioned something to me that I must admit has been on my mind ever since he brought it to my attention. And it serves as the reason why I titled my intro to today, A Tale of Two AIs. So what are these two AIs I've been pondering? The first is the obvious one, artificial intelligence. And when I talk about AI, I generally prefer to refer to it by its actual name, artificial intelligence, to remind myself that the technology remains, despite how organic it may seem, always artificial. This means that it has been made or produced by humans, a copy, as it were, of something natural or human, like intelligence. Generally speaking, AI and its endpoint, that of artificial general intelligence, depicts an intelligence that seeks to collect and extract information from as many sources as possible and to analyze and interpret it for specific use cases. The other AI is what could be referred to as ancestral intelligence. Apart from sharing an acronym, this really is a crucial form of intelligence to bring to the table, no pun intended. My understanding of the term is that contrary to AI, which has been manufactured or produced, this is something that has been guarded and handed down through the generations with a reverence that champions protecting the information that has been shared. This information could be regarded as almost sacred, shared by elders to younger generations in ceremonial ways, ensuring one knows they are receiving something worth cherishing. With this distinction in mind, I've been asked to share some ethical perspectives on AI and the food system, and I plan to do so through three overarching thoughts. The first is the distinction between knowledge and wisdom. As stores of knowledge, AI systems have quickly become unparalleled when compared to traditional knowledge houses. One only needs to consider the task of going to a library to search for a book. I wonder in this forum how many of us still remember what the Dewey Decimal System is and how it even operates. Today, this task isn't necessary because a Gen AI system can give us all the information we'd ever need in abundance through simple prompts. In my view, however powerful systems these may be, the information generated by them is always a form of knowledge. AI's brilliance is that it can share information, not necessarily facts, and theoretical and practical understandings with rapidity. A farmer can take advantage of this through using classification tools to efficiently identify crop diseases and deficiencies or calculate estimated yields without any intellectual heavy lifting on their part. Similarly, prediction algorithms can give early warning of weather systems and the nutrients and quantities necessary to ensure optimal yield. We've seen tools taking advantage of these gains in efficiency and optimization take root, apologies, another pun, in the agricultural sector, with successes that others on the panel are admittedly better placed to describe in practice. In contrast to knowledge, wisdom is something I'd liken to ancestral intelligence. There's a book titled The Lost Art of Scripture by Karen Armstrong, where the author is careful to show that ancient religious texts were not read by ancient civilizations in the way we read and interpret them today. Back then, people also used these texts as tools, which before reading required ritualistic preparation. To use an earlier mentioned word again, they needed to be approached with a certain reverence in order to extract the appropriate value they held. This perspective sees wisdom as going beyond knowledge, representing something learned through experience and experiences, most often over time, with wise people being those we turn to, whose advice we value and good judgment they can share. This appears a value beyond what an AI system could replicate through more training data or lines of code. Wisdom is more akin to the generational stories we receive from our elders that detail how to intuitively read nature's signs about when the right time to till the soil is, or when the red sun signals imminent rain. Ethically speaking, this spotlights people we don't always prioritize or consider when thinking of the relationship between the vulnerable and technology. The digital divide and technological quandaries often interrogate those who have and those who have not, or the effect technologies may have on the youth. We seldom consider the effect our digitally transformed societies have with regard to the elderly and the wisdom they hold. Through AI, acquisitive wisdom may be substituted for extractive knowledge. The historian Yuval Noah Harari warned of a potential irrelevant, useless class of people that have no purpose in future societies. This omen seems to carry weight when we contrast the diminishing value of ancestral intelligence held by our elders and the increasing usefulness of artificial intelligence stored in our digital platforms. We may say that artificial intelligence is imperative to maintain the integrity needed for increasingly demanding food systems, as human intelligence is prone to forgetfulness and is unreliable. But AIs also have weaknesses within their immense compute power. They can hallucinate, carry bias, and can be the vessel for the spread of mis and disinformation. More importantly, within an ethical context, we often approach these tools without considering the inherent risks without considering the inherent risks or harms that may arise from their use and our increased dependence on them. What happens when the elder, who has not shared the subtle science of predicting the weather, passes on, and the technology that replaces them struggles to come online? We may have future societies who entirely depend on technologies that fail them, and who have simultaneously lost all access to the guidance their ancestors once shared, which may have seen them through the droughts and the famines. This brings me to my second thought, that of the AI lifecycle and the human lifecycle. One might be quick to say that ancestral intelligence had its place in time when subsistence farming was enough for populations to get by, that commercialization necessitated digital tools to make certain crop yields crop yields sufficiently fuel exploding populations. In parallel, certain dispensations, such as neoliberalism, have worked to commoditize morality and ethics into market assets, so that even humans have been transformed from Homo sapiens into Homo economicus. This view sees everything as economic, and AI seems to exploit that value most comprehensively. It is worth noting, however, that the efficiency gains generated through AI technologies do also come at a cost, not just an economic one, but an environmental and human one too. Gen AI, for example, which requires massive compute power to process the questions we ask it, relies on massive water-cooled data centers to generate its results for us. This water needs to be good quality drinking water, as it runs less risk of contamination through bacteria and the like. Estimates range from each question we ask using a single drop of water to every 50 prompts requiring 500 mils. My thought on this is to be careful not to ask ChatGPT stupid questions. You're wasting water. ChatGPT alone receives upwards of 1 billion prompts a day. And as work has become more time-pressed and generate results, this number is likely to grow with rapidity. ChatGPT is only one of a number of similar Gen AI products, which is only one type of AI in the whole AI armada. The batteries in our smartphones used to access AI-generated information require cobalt and lithium and other rare earth elements. The companies mining these don't necessarily disclose the unethical practices necessary to extract these minerals, which involve environmental degradation, exploitation of labor, and other illicit activities that oftentimes take advantage of the majority world whilst continuing to enrich those in the global north. E-waste, too, has generated new dumping grounds in African countries, with improperly disposed systems leading to all kinds of pollution. It follows that from the beginning to the end, the life cycle of AI systems should be mapped ecologically and economically to ascertain the true cost of maximizing yield and system optimization. What use is there when a perfect crop is in front of you and giant holes in the ground or dumps lay just outside the farm's boundary fence? In stark contrast to this, to tap into the whole history of one's ancestral intelligence, measured over a human lifetime, only about 50,000 liters of water is needed to keep that human hydrated for their entire life cycle. That's about 200 human lives worth of water that ChatGPT is consuming daily, just to give us the information we ask it. And yes, I did use ChatGPT to help me calculate that. My final comment links to the topic of responsible AI, which is the field my company works in. Over the past few years, ethical frameworks, such as UNESCO's recommendation on the ethics of AI, have emerged in response to AI's widespread proliferation. These frameworks equip us with values and principles we can then use to assess the ethical implications of AI. Ethics represent the shared values and principles that focus on the responsible development and use of the technologies. These include protecting human rights and fundamental freedoms, ensuring diversity and inclusiveness, and working towards peaceful and interconnected societies. Through relying on these frameworks, we can interrogate the systems we use and see whether they are proportional to the problems they seek to solve, whether they remain fair, non-discriminatory, and safe and sustainable to use. In drawing to conclusion, something I'm often careful to consider in light of ethical frameworks is that at their core, it is not the AIs that need to exhibit these qualities, rather it's the people behind them. I started the speech by saying that artificial represents something copied from humans, and so the true intelligence that needs to keep these values and principles at the forefront are the technologists and practitioners bringing these systems into existence. The usefulness of AI systems should always be counterbalanced with assessing all the practices behind them that made them useful in the first place. Ethically, in deciding whether to engage with AI systems, which may ultimately replace our ancestral intelligences, this may mean approaching AIs and interrogating their potential risks and harms with the reverence we once had when asking an elder for advice. It's important to note that we haven't yet found clear ways to objectively and comprehensively measure these systems' usefulness against the damage they may be causing. This doesn't mean we should treat AI with hostility or skepticism, only that caution is a good vantage point from which to engage them. I don't have another pun to end this talk on, but when considering AI in the food system, an old phrase seems pertinent: you reap what you sow. Thank you.